As many of you know, I finally bought an EV, a 2021 Porsche Taycan 4S certified pre-owned, or CPO. These are screaming deals, folks. Originally, this car was $164,000. My price, $74 grand. I'll tell you how I did it, plus show you how you can apply this to any brand, not just Porsches. Again, what I did to buy this car should work with just about any car brand. And while I'm pretty good at reviewing cars, buying them is something that I seldom do. That is a completely separate skill set. Salespeople completely have the advantage because they do it every day. And let me make one thing clear. Yes, I work with manufacturers, but I didn't ask them for any help. Plus, salespeople all across the country seldom, if ever, knew who I was, so there was no advantage there. I should probably work on that. The first step is, of course, know exactly what you want. For me, it's the Taycan 4S. I've driven nearly every trim of Porsche's EV and consider 4S the sweet spot. It's high performance, but not insanely so. I'll seldom, if ever, track my car. Even though these are tremendous values after a few years, they're still not inexpensive, so, I want to get it right. The advantage of going with a certified pre-owned vehicle? Well, every manufacturer does things a little bit differently, but Porsche adds 2 years of warranty coverage on any that's left on the vehicle, and then it's completely refurbished. If the tires are worn out, those are replaced, wheel rash is fixed, the interior is gone over to make it as new as possible. From what I understand, the process can take 3 or 4 days. Nearly all manufacturers have a dedicated CPO site. Do a web search to find it. Then use filters to get rid of the chaff. I originally searched only in the Pacific Northwest, but quickly found that limiting, so I cast a nationwide net. Because Taycan was launched with Mission E wheels and white paint, I thought it would be cool to get something close to what I first saw at the Niagara Falls unveiling. Must-haves were the larger battery pack, because I intend to road trip my car, premium package, and adaptive cruise control. Bonus points for the Sport Chrono package, heated steering wheel, and the leather interior, which adds a cut and sewn dash that looks really nice. And really, other than gentian blue and the basic black paint, I was open to exterior color, though I think Taycan looks best in lighter shades. The best car shopping advice I can give you, other than buy the car you love, is to be patient, okay? Don't rush. It's the worst thing that you can do. From the point that the lovely and charming encouraged me to buy a Taycan to the point where I picked it up took just over 4 months. Though these pointers can probably help you shave some time off that. The CPO site has the Carfax rundown. I passed on cars that were otherwise perfect for me due to their history. I quickly found out a few things. Typically, there's no price haggling. I did see some price reductions on cars that were weird builds and colors, but generally the price is fixed. Also, just because they say the car is for sale doesn't mean it really is. Typically, they'll leave it up on the CPO site until the sale is completely finalized in case somebody backs out of the deal. Also, don't get discouraged if you inquire about a car and you don't get a response. I had that happen a number of times, complete radio silence. And in 3 cases, I inquired about a car, and days later, when the salesperson finally got back to me, the car had just sold. Very frustrating. I became quite intimate with the Porsche CPO site, checking 3 times a day. I was a little obsessed, and I found that even though I would check a filter box, it would regularly uncheck, causing a problem. Around Christmas, I found a 4S in Neptune Blue with low miles in the Atlanta area. Literally on the phone to put a deposit down, I realized while checking the options, it had the standard battery pack. The Plus Pack box had unchecked itself, which explained why the price was so low. So I moved on and eventually realized that if I wanted a particularly desirable vehicle, and this is key, I had to jump on it right now, like immediately, as soon as it popped up on the site. So I set the filter for what I wanted and had the CPO site email me when something came up. Also, I added Cross Turismo because I kind of have a bit of history with that vehicle. If you remember, I was the first American journalist to drive the prototype in Malibu, California, which was an amazing experience. Plus, I like wagons, and it is much more useful. I'm kind of practical in that Minnesota-raised way. And this lovely spec came back, a loaded Taycan 4 Cross Turismo in paint to sample Brewster green. And I jumped on it right away with a deposit. And it's at this point in the video where I have to apologize to Warren K. at Porsche Denver West because I pulled out of the deal and they refunded my deposit. It just turns out that I came to realize that I really love the sedan design and I'm a little bit iffy on black wheels. Even my wife agreed. She says, I like the sedan better. It looks more like a Porsche. I have to agree. So if you live in the Denver area, I do recommend Porsche Denver West and Warren K. He was a great salesperson and understanding. Good things come to those who wait. A few weeks later, I was emailed this 4S sedan in ice gray and again, jumped on it right away. Heavily optioned and only 9,000 miles, if not a smidge out of my budget. I asked the folks at Porsche Long Beach to hold the car and to check if a heated steering wheel could be added. Clearly, there was some miscommunication. The short story is this: the salesperson that I was working with apparently had a few days off, and by the time he returned to the dealership, the car was sold out from under me. Not cool, Long Beach Porsche. This was a particularly nice vehicle, and it stung. So I decided to take a break from my search and maybe reassess. Look at vehicles that were more affordable, that had less content. Which led me to a Neptune Blue 4S with around 24,000 miles in California. That was pretty reasonable. And no Mission E's, but the Taycan wheels are very nice. So I contacted the dealer and started the process. Now, that evening, I was hanging out with Martin Campbell and pulled out my phone to show him the car when an email came in from the CPO site. A 4S in Carrera White Metallic, located in Ontario, California, loaded with Mission E's, Porsche surface-coated brakes, performance package, upgraded Olia Club leather interior, sport design package, acoustically laminated glass, head-up display, Burmester sound, and much more. It was a $164,000 car for just over 74 grand. 32,000 miles was higher than I wanted, and no heated steering wheel, but this was a lovely spec. So once again, I jumped on it, and this time, everything clicked. The sales agent, Jose Martinez, even sent me a very detailed video pointing out everything about the car. Truth is, buying a car out of state can be a little bit cumbersome. You know, the process is already tedious, even if you're buying locally. Porsche Ontario FedExed me the paperwork. It took like 40 minutes to fill out. There's lots of it. And even though I had arranged financing, it took a couple hours to go to the bank and do the wire transfer. So set aside some time for that. And I would like to thank Porsche Ontario for not aggressively upselling me on things like paint sealant and interior protection. They just mentioned it and I said no, and they moved on. Very professional, what you'd expect Porsche to be. And my salesperson, Jose Martinez, was top-notch. There was a sleepless night or two. While this is a great value at more than 50% off original MSRP, $74,000 is a lot of money to plunk down on a used car that I had only seen pictures of. I would actually save a little money having the car shipped to Seattle. That's a long story, but I wanted the delivery experience and to road trip it home. Those will be separate videos. Something funny, this car was originally ordered debadged, and the first owner put Turbo S badges on the back. And the first question I asked was, can those be taken off without disturbing the paint? And the dealership said, oh yeah, those are coming off. So, to summarize, graphics please. First, it might seem silly to say this, but lock in the make and model of what you want. It'll go a long ways to make searching easier. Take advantage of the filters on the CPO site so you're not wading through cars that you have no interest in. Those can get very granular and it really helps. Before you start contacting dealerships, get your financing pre-approved and ready to go so you can make a move quickly. Check in with your insurance agent so you're not surprised at the cost of covering your vehicle. Surprisingly, my 4S was not as high as I would have thought, but a Turbo or a Turbo S would have added a lot. When searching, cast a wide net and be willing to travel or have the car shipped, which in my case would have added another $1,200. There were certain options that I insisted on having, but being flexible with paint colors and options will go a long way to make the search easier. Be patient. I cannot stress this enough. As I said, my search ended up taking a little over 4 months, but I got a really good car as a result. I'm guessing I started long before Matt Farah did, but we both ended up with Taycans. Be prepared for a little bit of disappointment because chances are, if you like a particular vehicle, there's someone else out there that does too. Once you find the vehicle of your dreams, jump on it right away and communicate very clearly with the dealership that you want the car held and ask what you need to do to secure it. Ask them to send a detailed video or jump on a FaceTime call with the salesperson so you can go over the car inch by inch. And once you've established a price, communicate very clearly that you do or do not want certain aftermarket items like protective treatment or protective film. And finally, be very firm with your offer. Walk away if the dealership tries to surprise you with unexpected charges. Hold your ground. In my years of buying vehicles, I've walked out of the showroom a number of times only to get a phone call later, and I got the deal that we originally agreed upon. It takes time to buy a car. If you've ever wanted to own a Porsche, I know that I've admired its vehicles for decades. A CPO Taycan is a screaming deal, right? Originally $164,000. My price 3 years later, $74,000, and it feels like it's brand new. So stick around and we'll see how this all works out, okay? Remember, subscribe to the channel, click notifications. Follow me on social media. I'm on Blue Sky and Threads now. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments. That's Driven. Long term, in this case. I'm Tom Volk.